This presentation will help you understand performance verbs as they appear on many standardized tests. Performance verbs are verbs or words that appear on test questions, and they tell you what you need to perform, what you need to do to answer the question correctly. On this page is a list of several common performance verbs that may appear on standardized tests. This is not a complete list. It's a list of some of the most common ones. So I want to take a moment and highlight a few of them. One, for example, is explain. When a question asks you to explain something, that means you need to make clear or give a reason for something. That's a very popular one that is used. Another one that is popular on reading tests, Another one that is popular on reading tests is predict. Predict asks you to use what you already know and make a statement about what's going to happen in the future. Another good one that shows up quite a bit is compare. Sometimes you see this one with contrast. In this case, you have to look at traits or qualities to find out what's alike, what's different about the items that are being compared. These are words, as well as the other ones listed on here: analyze, describe, evaluate, formulate, infer, summarize, support, and trace. These are all words that tell you how best to answer a question. We're going to see some examples now. Here's an example from the spring 2010 8th grade science test. Now, when we come in and look at a question, we want to survey the question, which just means to skim over to pull out key bits of information that we can focus on later. So the top part during our survey, we notice, okay, this looks like background information that's going to help us answer the question. It's information. We also have another key piece of information, this picture or this image. It's labeled very well with captions, so that's information that we're probably going to need to get to our answer. The bottom part of this question here is what we need to do. This is our performance part. This is what it's asking us to do. So let's take a closer look at that. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. All right, so we have in our answer document, it's asking us to describe 2 environmental advantages and 2 environmental disadvantages of building the hydroelectric power plant proposed by the City Council. We see that it's worth 4 points. So that tells us if we're surveying, we need to describe something and it's going to be 4 points. We probably need to describe 4 separate pieces of information. In this case, we have 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. All right, this is information, and go ahead and circle and mark this information just as I'm doing here in your test document, because it's going to help you make sure you get the right pieces of information in here. So describe, you have to give details about something. In this case, 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages for a total of 4 points. Here's a question from the 7th grade 2011 spring OAA. This is based on a reading passage about fungi. So our question is asking us to explain, now what it is we have to explain, 1 difference, 1 similarity between bacteria and mold. So there's our information. We've got our 2 pieces of information, and that's 2 points. So to get full credit, we need to include 1 difference, 1 similarity. On this question from the 2009 OGT in Social Studies, the performance verb is asking us to identify 4 factors, which can be social, political, economic, and/or environmental, that contributed to the migration of large numbers of people from Europe to the United States in the late 19th century. Write our answer in the answer document. And we can see that it is worth 4 points. So I'm going to circle the 4 points, the point value. I'm definitely going to mark the performance verb in here, which is identify, in this case, state. And what we need to state, we need to state 4 factors that relate to the migration of people. So in order to get full credit for this, I have to correctly identify 4 factors, and the prompt gives us social, political, economic, or environmental factors that we can include. If we can only correctly identify, let's say 2 or 3 factors, it's better to write those 2 or 3 down rather than 4, and rather than a blank answer, so that you can get possibly 2 or 3 points on this question. Our last example comes from the Math OGT, the Math Spring OGT from 2008. So as we survey, which is the first step, we want to go through and look at the question before we even solve it. We're going to notice our first paragraph up here. This looks like it gives us all the details we'll need to use to solve this math problem. The second paragraph, we see some keywords here: answer document, determine the maximum number of people the club will serve, use a table graph equation. There's a lot of information in there. And then we come over and we see it's worth 2 points. Okay, so we know this is a 2-point question. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit here to bring this up. All right, the key part of the question that we want to look at is this part here where it says in our answer document. I'm going to circle our performance verb. In this case, we have to determine. And what do we have to determine? The maximum number of people the club will be able to serve. And our second point is going to come from using either a table, graph, equation, or inequality to support, that's another important one, to support our answer. All right, so our 2 points for this question, and it's okay to write this in your test booklet. You have plenty of room in here. So we have to give the number of people, and you'll have to excuse my poor penmanship on the computer. The number of people, and then our other point is going to come from using something to support. Okay, so for using our support. And again, I apologize for the bad handwriting, but make a little checklist for yourself. Look at the performance verbs. The performance verbs are going to be your biggest clue in how to go about answering these short answer and extended response questions. The next time you sit down to take a standardized test, take several moments to go through and understand the performance verbs. A few minutes will save you many points and many troubles down the road. It's easy to do. Remember to circle the performance verbs. Look at point values to determine how much information you need to include. And as always, double check your answers. Good luck.